guy is the reason why I deleted Tinder. A few months ago, I met a guy on Tinder, and for this story, let's just call him Steve. Steve and I actually ended up getting along really well, and we ended up going on our first date just a few days after we matched. After that, we were together literally all of the time. I even took him to meet my friends after just a week or two. We ended up going on a road trip together, and he was my date to formal. I didn't know it yet, but just as quickly as this romance started, it would end. And not like the kind of breakup where we could still be friends, I mean like crash and burn. One of my friends was throwing a party and invited me to come out. When I got there, I hadn't really planned on having any drinks, but of course I ended up having one. And like a responsible person, I called someone to come pick me up. The first friend that I called said that they were busy and they were already going to bed, so I went ahead and called Steve. He was so nice about it, and he was like, yeah, I'm with some friends right now, but we'll head over and pick you up. A few minutes later, Steve and his friends got there, but as soon as I got in his car, he started calling me a slut and a whore and all of these horrible things. He kept calling me a slut and a whore and all of these names, and then started screaming at me saying that I was cheating on him. I was so confused because I literally was just with some friends. Also, this was the first time that I had ever met his friends, and instead of standing up for me, all of them just sat there like they'd seen him do this before. When we started getting closer to my house, I started to get really upset with Steve. That's when he pulled the car over, went over to the passenger side door, grabbed my arm, and dragged me out. He grabbed all of my stuff out of the passenger seat and threw it at me on the side of the road. I ended up having to walk myself the rest of the way home. But a few weeks later, I get a text from Steve. He told me that he got chlamydia and that it was my fault since I was the one who, quote, cheated on him. He also told me that he had already gotten a new girlfriend and that it couldn't have been her fault because she was perfect, unlike me. While I was waiting on my test results, Steve and his new girlfriend were literally harassing me over text, but mine came back negative and hers came back positive. So I guess Steve got what he deserved.
Stitch this and tell me about the craziest customer experience you've ever had.
So I worked at Victoria's Secret for 4 years. We would get really long lines at VS, like super long out the door. Sometimes my manager would break up the line and make it into 2 lines. I'm at the register, there's 3 of us ringing, I'm in the center. The people on the left and right only pull from their line in front of them, and I'm in the middle, so I alternate which line I pull from. I guess the customer she thought she was next, she thought I was going to call her, but it wasn't her turn because I had already pulled from her line. It was my time to finally switch to the other line. So she's already over there mad, whatever, but I'm like, ooh, I hope I don't get her. Of course I fucking get her still. So she comes over to me all mad like I need to make a return. I'm like, okay, miss, can I please have your ID for the return? She's rummaging through her wallet, finds the ID, rolling her eyes because she's tight. She flings her fucking ID at me and it hits me in the chest. And I'm like, so I threw that bitch back at her. Bye.
A few years ago, I had a client contact me and tell me she was looking for someone to do her makeup because she was going to her very first Pride Parade ever. I was super excited to be the one that she decided to reach out to because I'd never gotten to do such a fun and colorful look on a client before. Especially since a lot of the makeup that I did was for formal events like prom, homecoming, and weddings. I decided on doing a full rainbow eye look, and that took me about an hour and a half to finish with her base makeup. But as soon as I thought I was done, she told me that she wasn't happy. Usually when a client tells me that they're not happy, it means that they don't like the look at all. But in this case, it was because she absolutely loved the look. The only thing she didn't like is that the colors were just on her eyes and she wanted it to be everywhere. We decided on doing rainbow faux freckles, and at this point in my makeup career, it wasn't a thing yet to use a spoolie and just flick the color, so I had to use the tiniest little eyeliner brush and individually apply each freckle. By the time I finished that, it had been like 2.5 hours, and that's when she started to get really upset. It had already been 2.5 hours since I started on this client's makeup. That's when my client started to get pretty upset with me. She kept trying to explain to me that she had to be at the parade at a certain time or she wouldn't get to march with her friends. I told her that I was going as fast as I could, but in reality, she just kept adding things to the look, making it take even longer. After I finished the rainbow faux freckles, she also wanted me to do an ombre rainbow lip, which she ended up not liking after I put it on her face, so we took it off and just went with a basic red. Then she wanted me to apply face jewels all over her face like they do at those festivals. The face jewels that she brought for me to use were not the kind that came already put into a design. They were literally individual stones. At the end, this ended up taking me like 4.5 hours to finish her entire makeup. I was a little concerned because the price that I had originally given her is what I usually charge for a client that takes me about an hour and a half. Plus, she was already really pissed off at me. But she ended up paying and leaving a tip. Happy Pride Month.
I got so many people asking me to review this movie, so here's another movie recommendation. Girl in the Basement is a movie about a really controlling father and a normal teenage girl. In the beginning, it starts out with the classic controlling father who just doesn't let her go out, and she keeps saying that she's gonna leave when she's 18. And never come back. He decides that this just doesn't work for him, so he tricks her into going downstairs in the basement into a secret room that is hidden behind a bookshelf and locks her in there. He's the only one who knows about the room, so everybody else in her life thinks that she just walked off and disappeared due to all of his lies. He locks her in there right before her 18th birthday and keeps her in there for 20 years. Over the course of those 20 years, he repeatedly rapes her and has her go through multiple pregnancies, 2 of which of those kids have to live down there with her, never seeing the sunlight. So I watched this movie last night and I was in tears, like I was sobbing my eyes out. This movie is extremely hard to watch, especially because the acting is so good and so real. I do highly recommend this movie if you can handle these things. You should definitely watch it with a parent if you are young. If you want to watch it, it's on Hulu and Amazon Prime. I would give the plot a 9 out of 10, cinematography 10 out of 10, acting 10 out of 10, and overall 10 out of 10. Another movie recommendation. Yes, this is a very popular movie and a lot of you have probably seen it, but this is for the people who don't know about it or haven't seen it yet. Henry sees Lucy one day and he just instantly falls in love with her. Start talking, they really like each other, and they plan to meet up the next day. The next day she doesn't show and he finally sees her and he goes, "Where were you?" And Lucy acts like she's never seen Henry in her life. That's when he finds out that every day when she wakes up, she loses her memory again. Years ago, there was a car crash that made her lose her short-term memory. So she can only remember anything that happened before the accident. And so the whole movie is about him trying to make her fall in love with him again and again every single day. He's kind of taking advantage of her, but the ending is very, very sweet and I love it. Two of the funniest actors in my opinion, and if you want to watch the movie, it's on Hulu and Netflix. Also, if you've seen this movie, comment and tell me what you think, because I've never met a person who doesn't like this movie.
Story time about how I found out my roommate put cameras all over our apartment and was spying on me. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. I've been living with my roommate for 2 months now. She says she's a model, but she does a lot of other stuff. But like if you look at her Instagram, she's a straight up model. Oh yeah, she's also trying to be an actress. Needless to say, she struggles with paying the rent. Me on the other hand, I work in finance and I have no problem paying rent. In fact, I helped her pay for our deposit. I help her with groceries every month, so basically I treat her really well. Her and I have been friends for about 4 years now, but we were never really best friends. And to be honest with you guys, I really didn't know her very well when we moved in together. Because of COVID, I've been working from home and it's been amazing. My roommate is never home. Also, she has a lot of friends, so she's always out. Last week, she came home and installed some speakers into our living room and our kitchen. I didn't think anything about it. I was just like, okay, cool. She asked me if I wanted one for my room and I told her I'd let her know. Later on that day, I see a freaking speaker in my room. 2 days ago, I had a boy over in my house. He asked me why I had cameras all over my place. Part 2 is up. 2 of how I found out my roommate put cameras all over our apartment and was spying on me. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. Listen to me on Instagram. But one day I have a boy over and we're watching Netflix. That's when he starts looking around my apartment and asks me why I have cameras installed. I was like, what cameras? He's like, all those speaker things are cameras, don't you know that? That's when I nearly had a panic attack. He grabbed them, opened them up, and showed me the camera that was inside. Like I said, my roommate told me they were speakers and she even offered to put one in my room, which she did. That's when he told me that my roommate has been spying on me and recording everything I've been doing while I've been home alone. He then suggested we go into her room and see if she had one in there. We walk into her room and start searching. That's when I get a message from my roommate. It's a picture of me and the guy in her bedroom. And she started saying that I was stealing from her room and that she was going to take legal action. Of course, being smarter than her, I know I'm not breaking any laws. When I told her that she had been recording me the whole time and that I was the one that was going to take legal action, she told me she was sending the cops over. That's when my friend opens her laptop and finds all the videos she had recorded of me. Guess what? She had been uploading them to a website where people were paying to watch me. Part 3 is up. Of how I found out my roommate put cameras in our apartment to record me and sell it on the internet. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. It was sent to me on Instagram. After I found all the footage on her laptop, I went straight to the cops. The cops came back with me to my apartment and when she arrived, they arrested her. Then she started saying that she had no idea how any of that got there and that the guy that sold the speakers, aka the cameras to her, was just some guy that she met on the street. And that she thought she was getting a good deal. She says that he was probably the one that was spying on us. But obviously all the proof is on her laptop. She was selling my videos on 4 websites. And guess what? She was making a lot of money. She only spent 2 nights in jail. Her dad is a pretty powerful guy, so we got her out of jail. Her parents want to give me money so that I won't talk about it again because they say that it's going to ruin her future acting career. I don't know what to do. Should I accept the money and never talk about it again? Or should I expose her? I mean, she's really not famous or anything. I could take the money and expose her later on if she does become famous. But I did reach out to all her old roommates and friends and told them what she did. One of her roommates even told me she did the same thing to her. I'm also considering getting a restraining order. What do you guys think I should do?